करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Slowly and gently open your eyes. So wishing you all firstly a very, very happy and healthy International Day of Yoga 2020. This is the 6th year in succession. And today, 21st of June, actually we have so many things going on today. It's a date with an eclipse, with the solstice. It's Music Day today. It's Father's Day today. It's such a sangam, such a confluence of events that we have here. And I feel there's actually no better way to celebrate this with the topic that we have for this webinar, which is yogic parenting principles. So I just want to thank Shivani and the whole team at Hello My Yoga and Yogi Kuti for bringing this topic, and it's so essential today because the future is in the hands of the children. So what is in the hands of the children, and with the impact of yoga that we have today, how can we inculcate these principles at a young age? So thank you for having such wonderful speakers with us here today. We have Dr. Jivasu, founder of the Naturality Movement. We have Dr. Anand Balyogi Bhagnani ji and your daughter Priya with us. And we also have Saraswati Vasudevan ji, founder from Yoga Vahini, Chennai. So thank you all of you all for taking the time out. I know it's a very busy day, but it's a significant day. And thank you for being here to share your insights on this topic. So life today, as we know, is just so fast. It is leading not just adults, but even children towards stress and depression. And according to a study which is done by the World Health Organization, children and young adults, teenagers are more prone to this condition. And since the child is actually the one who gives birth to the parents need to develop a better relation with their child. They have to open the door of communication. They have to provide the child with the right tools, the right environment, which allows them to nurture themselves, to express themselves freely. Swami Kuvalanand, the founder of Kaivalya Dham Lonavala, he says actually real education is not in the books, but in the environment created around oneself. So how should parents create an environment? What environment should they create? Why should they create that environment? So let's look into some of these things as well today. We'll begin with our first speaker, Dr. Jivasu. Dr. Jivasu is an Indian-Canadian teacher, writer, and founder of the Naturality Movement, or the Sahajata Movement. Born in 1956 in India, he had a traumatic experience in his childhood, which left him with a persistent fear of death. Later in life, this fear motivated him to explore the nature of death and what lies beyond it. While serving as a volunteer physician alongside his wife Karen in the Shivananda Ashram in Rishikesh, his search led him to a spiritual breakthrough and radical awakening. This experience became the foundation of the naturality teachings. Dr. Jivasu's life experiences, his background in medicine, and his spiritual quests have culminated in this movement, which explores how we can come to know our inner nature and become free from fear and guilt, leading to a peaceful and passionate life. Thank you so much, Dr. Jivasu, for being here. And the mic is yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. And Sahajaste is a new greeting for naturality. It means natural in me affirms natural in you. Because in Namaste, the divine comes, but if some people are atheist, so we created Sahajaste. I will start with few lines chant that will sum up my view of yoga, because then I can speak about yogic parenting. धर्म दे हम धर्म मानस धर्म बुद्धि आत्मा धर्म प्रियजन धर्म सर्वजन धर्म देश धर्मे धरा धर्म ने हम धर्म एकम धर्म ही गतिशीलता धर्म जीवन धर्म चेतन धर्म ही आनंद परम सहजम अस्ति 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 right care of my body feelings mind and soul right care of my family community country and earth. Let this right care come from a sense of oneness, love, and forward movement. And let this right care bring me the bliss of conscious existence. I affirm this, I affirm this, I affirm this in my naturalness. So that is how in naturality we conceive life. First of all, in just 1 or 2 minutes, I would like to define yoga or yoga. Yoga is union, meeting with my own potential. Not only I'm a child of my parents, but I'm the child of this universe, which is energy and consciousness. And once I'm born, I may be separated. So yoga is meeting through successive levels of experiences, samadhi, with my own potentiality and express it in the world. Because that is what nature wants. That is what cosmos wants. An ultimate realization is in yoga, kaivalya, in Buddhism, nirvana, in Christianity, salvation, in Vedanta, self-realization. But ultimately, this is all yoga because some people may not practice asanas, they may not practice breathing, they may not practice meditation. It is absolutely not necessary because living in the West, I'm seeing some people who don't practice yoga, but still they are yogis. So I want to clarify that there is no need, there is no fixed way, because then there is a bhakti yoga, there is a karma yoga, there is a jnana yoga. I'm pretty sure Raman Maharshi never practiced breathing or asanas. At the age of 17, he was finished. And at the age of 34, he became a sage. So that is what, from naturality point of view, yoga is. Now coming to the principles, yogic parenting. And the first and most important principle is that only light can give light to others. Darkness cannot give light to the world. So if as a parent, I'm not living a yogic life, how I could do yogic parenting at all? I may be very good in asanas, I practiced it, I may be doing excellent pranayam, and I'm sitting in meditation for half an hour, but my general behavior in my home, with my people, with poors, people who are not as privileged as me, if I'm not behaving with them properly, I'm hurting them. How I could say this is the principle of ahimsa? Because that is what it says in Yam, Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya. aste and aparigrahe. And that is what a lot of parents do. They may talk to a child in a very idealistic way. They will quote from Gita, from Ramayana, from Mahabharata, from Upanishad, but their own life doesn't reflect that. They are very happy to accumulate wealth by all means, by corruption. And a child is a very open book. Why? Because human brain contains what we call mirror neurons. This is the quality of human brain. Lots of them, animals, they have them too. Mirror brain cells. And what that means, whatever parents are doing, it will be reflected in child's brain because child's brain contain mirror neuron. Darpana, the whole brain is a mirror. So small talking about all kinds of yoga and all kinds of spirituality and those fantastic things is not going to affect because child is very silently, beautifully observing all that what their parents are doing. They talk about satya, they are telling lies all the time. They talk about ahimsa, in their life is not reflected. They are talking about aparigraha, non-possession. Meanwhile, their house is filled with possession, ever better cars, lot of wealth, lot of expenditure. And same thing about aste. So the most important principle to me is if I really want to do yogic parenting, I have to bring it in my life. Otherwise, child will become very good in technical capabilities of doing perfect yoga, perfect pranayam, sitting for half an hour, but these are just techniques, they are not yoga. Yoga is something which spontaneously happen. I cannot do it. Techniques help in that. So I can become an excellent technician, just like a plumber or electrician or a doctor and an engineer, but it's not going to work. It can work in other spheres, but not in yoga. So to me, that is the number one most important. Number two, so there are only two principles from my point of view, from naturality point of view. So first, I become yogi myself, not completely, at least partially, at least in a basic way, because we cannot achieve samadhi, all of us reach to Kaivalya. The second one is I have to become attentive towards my child. And that is so very well described in the sister science of yoga, we call Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, the most important component is not herbs. It is not all kinds of metals or analysis. It is Prakriti. My dosha, my natural personality with which I am born. Because that is the beauty of nature, that we are all born unique. Nature never creates carbon copy. It is an impossibility. So if you go to ocean beach, you pick up 2 cents particles, put them under the electron microscope, they can never be the same. Nature never repeats. It is a Devi who ever creates new, awesome, and wonder. That is what our universe and cosmos is. It is important in yogic parenting that I have to recognize my child, what kind of nature, unique nature that child has. And in order to do that, I have to be so attentive. Because a child may be very fragile, just like in Vata constitution, which we call wind constitution. I have to bring up this child in an entirely different way than Pitta child, who is very strong, fiery, or with a Kapha child. And then once I recognize, so this comes from the sister science of yoga, which is Ayurveda, and both of them come from, of course, Sankhya, Kapil's teachings. And once I do that, then I create an environment, not what I want, but according to that unique nature of the child. Whether it's sleep or exercise or food or education, clothes, room, everything. We have 8 principles of that self-care and they are put in place. But what most parents do, they have already a full plan for child's life. Because most parents, didn't live their life. So they want to live their life through their children. I couldn't fulfill my dream, so my child, my daughter or son will do for me. And that means it is finished. Child life, it is a pattern then. So I plan child's education. I plan child's marriage, to whom that person should marry in particular caste, in particular religion, in particular social status, economic status. And then as soon as they are married, I want a couple of children too, because I want to be a grandparent. This is totally un-yogic way of life. Now you can see that child, before he became or she became truly young, vibrant, passionate, became old. The moment a baby is born, we become 25 years old in a moment, because now we are worried about child's future, because we are planning, we are accumulating, because the child has to get education, to get job. So to me, those are the two fundamental principles. Number one, am I following through the spirit of yoga? Number two, I hope I'm not imposing my dreams, my expectation, because this child is so unique. That is why a lot of these yogis used to run away from their home. They disappeared into the forest. Why they did that? They knew that this society and community and family was so tight, they won't allow that. So my love will create a space around the child, and I will watch with masterly inactivity and let this little flower grow who is in the bud form. Let this child realize the full perfume of life. And ultimate, the greatness of that flourishing is so beautifully described in Aham Brahmasmi. That is the ultimate greatness of any human being. I am the Brahm. But it goes through successive stages. If I'm able to do that, if I didn't smother my child with my love and attachment, that is what we kill sometimes in love. Sometimes we kill in hate, but a lot of time in such a silent way. It is called halal. Halal meaning slow killing. I love you so much. I really want your happiness. But when it comes to crunch, Dad, I want to really marry this person. No, you can't marry. So I want your happiness, but this is all false statement. What I want, my happiness. If I couldn't get in my life. So when I'm able to do that, that is where yogic parenting flourish. Everything flourishes. Then we add something very unique to this universe, to this world: happiness, creativity, passion. And that is what we want. Otherwise, we will be living in a very monotonous world without any creativity, and we don't allow our children to take risks. And that is what happens in most of the families. But there are exceptions. So I think my 15 minutes are over, perhaps. But after that, if I can go on and on, but I will finish with that. And Sahajaste, natural in me, affirms natural in you. As I'm growing in my naturality, so you will, I hope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Javasu. That was lovely. The two important things you remember to remind everyone who's watching us is first recognize that I have to practice and at least if not be fully yogi, but at least try and strive to being it. And the second one is to recognize the natural personality of the child, whether it is according to Prakriti or according to Ayurveda, as you said, to recognize this natural personality and create the best environment for this natural personality to bloom and flourish. So thank you so much, Sahajaste. We will also continue. So our next speaker is Dr. Anand Balyogi Bhavnani ji and Divya Priya. Dr. Bhavnani is the director of CITER, that is the Center for Yoga Therapy, Education, Research. And he's also the professor of yoga therapy at Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth University in Pondicherry. He is a recipient of the coveted DSc in Yoga from S. Vyasa last year. And he is the chairman of ICYER, that's the International Center for Yoga and Education Research, Anand Ashram in Pondicherry, as well as the Yoganjali Natyalayam, the premier institute of yoga and Carnatic music in India. So he is the son and successor of the internationally acclaimed yoga team of Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetanand Giri Guru Maharaj and Yogacharni Srimati Meenakshi Devi Bhavnani. He's written several books, authored several papers. I too have actually cited your paper in my thesis, and I'm very fond of reading your research articles as well. So continue. You are also a PhD guide for several yoga therapy students, and you're also the first Indian to be recognized as the IYT certified yoga therapist. We have met at so many occasions, and I know how much involved you are with numerous expert committees in Ayush, in CCRYN, IYA. So there's just, I can keep going on, but I think I'll stop there. And I want to introduce Divya too. So Divya Priya Bhavnani, daughter of Anand Bhavnani ji, as well as Devasena Bhavnani. And you've been performing since you were 2 years old. Wow, that's amazing. So you have been top tier schools in many years and received numerous awards for music, for dancing, writing. And right now you're doing some shows on social media with Global Voices and Tell Me Appa. Okay, that's amazing to hear from that. So you also won the Sangeet Samrat Vijay Bhaskar Award and the Best Youth Award and Child Awards as well. And also today is your birthday. So very, very happy birthday to you. And yes, Mangal Janmadinam. So that's it. We have Anandji and Divya Priya. Please, the floor is yours.
Such a pleasure to be with all of you and to hear Dr. Jivasu speak. You were speaking my heart, my soul, and it was so beautiful to hear that. Because we as human beings, we have been given an opportunity to give birth to another human being. We have been given an opportunity to be born human. The question is, do we live as human beings? We are often caught up in being a human doing, and we are always asking people, how do you do? What do you do? When do you do? Why do you do? And it's always doing, and we the doing. Hence, we get attached to an externalized identification of ourselves. And yoga says this is because of avidya that the asmita is created, a false sense of misidentification. And then we start comparison with others. And I think one of the most important aspects of yogic parenting is, please, for God's sake, for heaven's sake, for Patanjali's sake, do not compare your child with anybody else. And if you have two children, do not compare them with each other. This is the first and foremost rule of yogic parenting. No comparison, because each one is born with a potential. Each one is born with a certain purpose, which is their swadharma. As a parent, we need to give them the freedom. We need to give them the trust. We need to give them the opportunities for them to live their life, manifest their purpose, and be the best version of themselves that they can be in this incarnation. This takes a great amount of viveka and vairagya, discernment and metacognitive non-attachment. Because it is the attachment that then kills. As you so beautifully said, in violence we kill, and in love also we kill, because we hold too tight. This holding too tight, I think, is I'm going to kill you. We need that space. And Divya has been one of those opportunities for me as a parent, for Devasena as a parent, to put into practice all these idealistic concepts. And as you said, the parents have to be role models. Because if you say something and then you do something, your children will look at what you do, not what you say. They will imprint on what you do, what you are, rather than what you try to be. And this is why in our institution, we work with a lot of children, 30, 40,000 kids over the last 3 decades. And working with the kids, working with the parents, I think the biggest struggle is to enable the parents to be non-competitive. This competitiveness, my child has to be better than the neighbor's child. If not, I have failed as a parent. See, if Sachin Tendulkar had tried to be somebody else, we would not have Bharat Ratna Sachin Tendulkar today. Because he was allowed to be Sachin Tendulkar by his parents and his brother, he became Sachin Tendulkar. He was given the freedom, the trust. Rather than say, you have to write your 10th standard exam. He didn't write his 10th standard exam. He was busy playing cricket. He was given that freedom. But what do? No, you first become a doctor, you first become an engineer, then you do what you want. Why don't we let them do what they want from the beginning? So I think Divya should speak more than me, because ours is more Vashan, hers is more experience. So she has been on stage since the age of 2, and in fact was born dancing and singing. So what was it? Do you remember those days of going on stage, and was it wanted to be there, or was it because we wanted you to be there?
Well, when I was born, when my mom was in her 2nd trimester, she had me and inside her, and she practically danced in one of the dance programs. So I think I got that dance. I was born into dance. And even before I came to the world, I was practically dancing inside her. So I must thank her for doing that. And once I was born, before I started walking, I would hold the chair and stand up and only tap my feet. And like people were worrying, why isn't she walking and she's only tapping her legs? Like before walking, I sort of danced first. And I loved watching. I would just watch the dance and I would do it right away. It didn't take me so much time, and I was so involved in dance especially. Of course, yoga played quite a major role in my life. It helped me give that stability, balance, and to know what I'm doing and everything, but not at such a young age. I learned it after I grew up. And I would say that I was born into dance, and my whole life I have gone to school like all other kids and all that, but still
You escaped a few years.
I escaped 3 years of schooling, so
Yeah,
I didn't go to
no
kindergarten.
kindergarten. Because when I was a young kid, my parents kept me out of school till 7th standard. So I say 7 plus 3 years, 10 years, I escaped the tyranny of modern education. And so, there are some brain cells that are still alive. So with her, we couldn't keep her out so long. So we said, okay, at least escape kindergarten. And she got in, and automatically like a, fish takes to water. But I think one thing has been also the environment at Yoganjali, where, all the kids were dancing, they were doing the yoga, the music. So I think that also played an important role. You had all these kids around you. And, that type of environment where, it was natural. As you said, it has to be sahaja. So it was natural that all the kids were coming Every weekend, there were the dance classes, the yoga classes, the music classes. So it is natural to be part of it. And I think one of the most important things, any kid who comes to us, and they're all my children, 200, 300 every weekend till Corona came by. Now we do it online. And for them, I think the most important thing of our institution is that they can be themselves. They do not else. They are respected, they are valued, and they are accepted as they are. And I think this has been one of the most important aspects for the kids. But did you feel any pressure because of this?
No, I just say that I just love dance, and then music was part of it, and yoga. So all three was brought into me, and I somehow just loved it. And even at such a young age, I couldn't sleep right away. My dad had to sing for me, that not cinema or movie songs, Carnatic vocal. And even after 3 songs, I would act as if I'm lying down, and then I would wake up again. So he had to practically sing a long time to make me. So I just had that passion. Maybe it was just all of you through me, and I was never pressured. I'm really grateful that they didn't pressure me like do only study and everything. Like I recently just come. It wasn't like study, study, study. I was allowed to sing, and I was allowed to interact in many of the programs, even though I wasn't able to practice. So I must thank that. As you said that it's very important that you shouldn't let the child grow in their own way, and they should do what really they want, but still you have to keep an eye on them that they don't go into the wrong path, because we don't know so much at this age.
In fact, I think in medicine we talk about a good obstetrician, that what they need to do is they need to be there for the mother to deliver, but they should just be there. They shouldn't deliver the baby for the mother. That is not their role. That they should just be there and let the baby be born naturally. And I think this is a very, very important concept in parenting, that it's not that you just let the kid do whatever they want, because they may not have the knowledge of what are the good and the bad. Teedum nandrum piratharavara is how the Tirukural, our Tamil Kavyams tell us. And they may not know. So you had to have a protective space, as you said, a protective space. But within that, let them have the experiences. And I remember so many times, you would perform, and it was a marvelous experience, because here you are singing, you are dancing, you are doing the yoga. And in fact, it was her own idea. She said, okay, after my 12th, I don't want to immediately go and jump into the next level. Give me 1 year. Let me travel around. We were going to travel around the world at this time and have a bit of experience and take time off. Understand yourself, understand life, which is so important. And because we couldn't go, she said, okay, I'll bring the world to where I am. And so she started this interview series. I think that's a beautiful idea. It was her idea. I just sit at the computer helping her go live and all that type of stuff. And she is now bringing all our senior teachers of our tradition on one platform. What is that Global Voices about?
So I started with the Tell Me Appa. That was like my rehearsal to this. And in the starting, I didn't have any idea to do this Global Voices. Tell Me Appa means, for the people who are there from the other countries, you say dad, but here Appa is such an emotion for all the girls. And today's Father's Day, so Appa is such an emotion for me always. I say that he's my 2 eyes. So I started with this Tell Me Appa, and people really liked it. So then I saw that I am able to do it, and I had an interest in it. Like it wasn't he forcing me, like do this interview. I would go up to him and say, can we have an interview tomorrow? And I wouldn't mention the questions. Okay, I'm quite naughty in that way.
Really naughty.
And I ask quite difficult questions and awkward questions here and there.
I was put in the hot spot, and seriously, I never knew what personal question would come out and what I would have to answer.
So then this Global Voices, as Yoga Day was coming up, every year we do a performance or something, but this was close to 17. Today I turned 17. So I thought that I should do something to the world that should help everyone around me. I shouldn't just, go on stage and not do anything. I should help them. So I thought of maybe if we have interviews with different people, then more people will interact and they might learn something from their personal experiences and their life in yoga. So I started the Global Voices, and it was really nice. I've gone through 1 week and quite an experience. I've learned a lot, and I know people out there are learning a lot.
I think part of it was also, failing. because one of the episodes, the internet connection got cut and, we were struggling. And normally, kids would, oh my God, what has happened? And we got through it well and came out with a beautiful episode. So I think, when you learn, you have to give people a chance to fail, okay? I think as a parent, one of the important things is give your kids a chance to fail, but be there to give them the safety net and catch them. But when they fail, let them learn a lesson out of it. Because what we tend to do is we say, oh, you have failed, you are no good. So, this idea that, come on, you have fallen down, but let's get out and we can do it. But what was also the role? I think there has been a trans-generational parenting in this case, because Ammaji, who's my mother, she has taken a great amount of effort, I would say, in sort of you and your brother coming up. So I think that also is very important. What do you think about that part?
Well, I would say that Ammaji has been number one in my life. Like, of course, my dad and my mom have helped me and everything, but she has really been an inspiration, motivation, and everything. And I would say role model, really. And from the young age, I wanted people to look at me as her junior. And then now slowly people are saying that, so I feel happy, but still I have to keep up because she's really gone to such a height. I would say that my whole English talent, conversational skills, presentation skills, writing, everything, I will place it at her golden feet because she really brought me and my brother up. So
I think that thing is very nice because, with the parent, we sort of sometimes attach too much. Grandparents have a little more experience, a little bigger perspective. And so I think the kids actually can get a lot out of the grandparents, which is why the Indian family structure was so important. And I think one of the things we are losing in modern times is this connection across the generations. So along with parenting, I think the grandparenting part, because the cultural ethos, the morals and ethical values, I think it is very beautiful that that can come. So I think if we were to summarize it, what would we say? Trust, freedom, would those be some of the words that would come to you?
you mean the parenting?
For parenting and how a parent and a child, what would be the ingredients that would help, the parenting to occur effectively?
Well, first of all, the child must trust the parent. They should see that, okay, my parents are good, and like they should first know that you will stand to your word. It shouldn't be like, oh, they say it and they don't do it, so why should I do it? That totally, comes out of the point. So I must say that trust is very important. The parents should be pakka role models. Also, we kids, I say that we are not greater than them. Okay, we should learn to listen to them and we should try to see the best that they are saying. Like sometimes it might be in a harsh way and everything, but whatever they do, it will be out of love and concern for our growth in life.
So I think love, trust, freedom, and helping the person understand that they are a unique version of themselves. So I think, it's an interplay in the relationship between the parent and the child. So this is just our few words on this occasion, because I just felt it is such a wonderful time for us to share. And I am not a perfect parent. She is not a perfect daughter. We all have mistakes. We all have our issues. But at least we are trying to do our best. We are trying to be mindful and see where we can improve and how we can share about it. So wish all of you take something out of this and just be the best you that you can be. Don't try to be somebody else.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very, very lovely. I think it makes a lot of sense. I felt this too. When I was growing up, I would look up to my grandfather and, the meticulousness, the simplicity of his life. I have learned so much from that and I've imbibed so much from that. So you're right, Anandji. Yogic grandparenting is also an extension of what this webinar is about. One more thing came up actually when you were speaking. You said that the mom was dancing when a few months before, when you're in her third trimester. So what is this relation that we have, when the child is in the womb? Is the child being educated in the womb? Can we educate the child in the womb? Is the child listening? So many questions, arise from this. So I don't know if much time to answer that. Yeah.
Actually, you see, Indian culture has the concept of Garbha Sanskar. And the Garbha Sanskar is very, very important in Indian culture. We have examples of Ashwatthama. We have examples of Abhimanyu. So many examples that come out of this. And this is why Only now modern medicine understands that what the mother thinks, what the mother does, what she eats, what she feels, what she listens to impacts the development of the baby. So I think, if the mother is practicing yoga, my mother was practicing yoga throughout the pregnancy. In fact, people say, what is your experience in yoga? I say it is my age plus 9 months. Because right from even before conception, she was in the state of yoga. So you have it right from day one of your life. And I think it is very, very important because it gives you that even as you are growing cellularly in your mother's womb, these spiritual experiences are also being blossomed, seeded into you. So as you mature physically, emotionally, the spiritual seeds also start to blossom in your life. So yes, music, dance, art. So many of my students, they use my Yoga Sutra chanting CD as a pregnancy tool. I never meant it to be that. And they listen to it and they say whenever we play that, there's a beautiful sense of calmness with the baby. Then when the baby is born, if the baby is crying, they play the same CD and then the baby is, calmed and goes to sleep. So, I said, I never marketed it that way. But the Yoga Sutras of Maharishi Patanjali, they can have that amazing effect. Now, what happens when we think negative thoughts? What happens when we eat junk food? What happens when we put in all sort of negative sensory stimuli? Well, then are we making gods or devils? I think we have to ask ourselves. Responsibility of parenting starts way before you even get married, if you ask me. That is why the young girls, the young boys, they need to have the culture of yoga so that when they get married, when the baby is conceived in the mind and then conceived in the body, the yoga is part and parcel of it.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. That was very enlightening. Okay, so we move on now. Our fourth speaker is Saraswati Vasudevanji, founder of Yoga Vahini, Chennai. Saraswati is an internationally renowned yoga teacher, trainer, and therapist. She has 2 master's degrees in nutrition and psychology from the University of Madras and a diploma in yoga studies from Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai. She has had close to 3 decades of study, practice, and teaching experience in this tradition, having studied directly with Sri T.K.V. Desikachar for over 17 years. In 2010, she founded Yoga Vahini, a specialized yoga training, therapy, and research center, along with her husband Sundar, with the aim of making the transformative and healing wisdom of yoga and personalized yoga therapy more accessible to everyone. Yoga Vahini has centers in Chennai, Hyderabad, and presence in other cities in India as well as around the world. In 2016, she co-founded the Yoga Vahini Foundation, a public charitable trust that was working towards bringing yoga and yoga therapy to rural and underserved populations through yoga awareness camps and programs. She serves on the voluntary board of directors of the Yoga Alliance, one of the largest international yoga certifying and credentializing bodies. I too have actually had the privilege of being her student and being at Yoga Vahini in Chennai to study and practice with her. And just like Bhavnani ji, she also holds a very special place in my research work. Her worldview is absolutely unique, and it's a pleasure to listen to her speak. So, ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Harsh. I want to thank Dr. Jivasu and Dr. Ananda and Divya Priya for a very beautiful exposition. I think you brought alive many, many important points in relation to this role of parenting. So my first curiosity was, I've been called to speak on this topic and I don't have an experience of parenting. But my teacher always used to say there is a, Bija Putra and then there is a Jnana Putra. So I can say I have many Jnana Putras and Putris in that sense. And I continue to parent many of the parents who are my students. So today, I think I'll just touch upon a few points that our speakers before have already spoken about very briefly. Dr. Bhavnaniji said that your role as a parent begins even before you get married. So there's a very important aspect of preparing for conception. In Ayurveda, the parents to be have to go through maybe 7 to 8 months of cleansing and preparation to make sure their doshas come into a state of reasonable good level of balance and health before the conception, so that the child is born healthy. And then there is a very detailed ritual around even the act of conception, right? And during pregnancy, of course, we know the physical, the psychological, and the emotional health of the mother is very important. In fact, I have a friend, Dr. Andal Bhaskar, who's an obstetrician. I don't know if you've heard of her. She practices in Nellore, and she has this concept of talking to the baby in the womb. And for many years, close to 30 years, she has been training the to-be mothers to actually talk to their babies and the whole family to talk to the baby in the womb. And so her idea is that we want to bring children who are not only healthy, but good human beings. When we see the violence in the world, I think if we want to bring down violence, we have to begin not at conception. I mean, not after the baby is born, but before the baby is born. What you inculcate into the womb is very important. I think that's a very beautiful idea. And we are trying to do some work with her as well with yoga. Then coming to actual parenting, now that the baby is out in the world. So what does the wisdom of Yoga Sutra talk about it? Of course, we have the Yama Niyamas. So we create certain disciplines in our life, in the way we want to live our life and at home. So what kind of discipline, what kind of environment we create at home, so that the children can learn through observation, can learn through seeing how the parents behave, how they treat other people, how they are treated, how to respect oneself, how to respect other people, how to know the difference between what belongs to me and what does not belong to me, how to really draw healthy boundaries for our action and responses to the challenges that the world is throwing upon us all the time. So the Yama Niyamas definitely help us with this. But this is something that is so simply said, but the most complex thing to practice, because most of the time we know that this is how we want to be, but we fail ourselves again and again. We're just not able to practice that. And so very often when parents, particularly when we get to the point of Ashtanga Yoga, Yama Niyamas, parents start fretting and there's a guilt trip and think, oh my God, what did I do? Now the child is 30 years old, but I'm just wondering, I should have done something better. As a young parent, what did I do to my child? Now that's what we go through. So I just wanted to look at this whole practice of yoga and to see why is that, even though we know that this is not the right thing to do and this is the right thing to do, we keep repeatedly going into certain patterns of behavior and action, and we keep behaving the same way, and we want the child to change, the child to behave differently. Whereas the parent has set into a certain compulsive ways of behavior and action. So I really want to look at this, go into the root of it, like why are we the way we are, to be able to see that. So I just want to focus on 2 points, which already Dr. Bhavnani ji and Dr. Jivasu have touched upon. From where is this action? Are these samskaras coming? Are these conditioning coming? And the second thing is, can we look at some simple practices to change it? That will support the practice of Yama Niyamas, and that in some way can also be seen as a fruit of the Yama Niyamas. So where is this coming from? Of course, we look at asking some very important questions. So if I can actually isolate a particular way in which I tend to behave towards my child, and I tend to behave the same way again and again, and know that it is not the right thing to do, it is hurting the child. So the first thing I have to ask myself is, why am I doing this? So the questions that I have to ask are very important. That why is this action coming out of me? And invariably, I will get in touch with some aspect of the child that I'm very attached to. They should be like this, they should not be like this, or I want my child to be like this. So this whole raga, the attachment that I have, and the attachment that's manifesting in so many complex ways, so many subtle ways that we can't even sometimes identify. We all say, okay, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, smita, fine. But can we look at it? Can we actually pull out that strand of raga and say, oh, this is what I'm attached to? And then when I ask what am I attached to, can I also ask, because I'm attached to this, what am I going to get out of it? What am I going to achieve? So I say my child wants to stand first all the time. Okay. Now this is an attachment, and we say, oh, this is a great attachment. I want my child to really excel. So what's wrong in this attachment? So what am I going to get out of it? I feel really great that I have a child that's excelling in school and it's standing first. Like, Dr. Babrani ji was talking about this comparison, how we kill ourselves and kill our children with this. So that's attachment. And then I have to also ask, what will be the repercussions if my child does not achieve this, or if this attachment is not met, if this need of mine is not met, what will be the repercussions? Let me listen to that. Let me really listen to what could happen if this is not going to happen. Sukha anushayi raga. So if I am not in sukham, if my child does not give me that sukham that I am craving for, what will happen? We think the world will come to an end. Actually, it cannot come to an end. It won't come to an end. Yeah, the next question to ask is, where is this coming from? Where is this pattern, this conditioning of mine coming from? And invariably, the first ground that we will touch upon is, I wanted to be that. I wanted to be an engineer, so I'm pushing my child who wants to be an artist to become an engineer. And that will be the first thing. And then what did my mother do? She wanted to be something else and she pushed that onto me. So the thread continues. So to ask, where is this coming from? And truthfully listen to our own voice. What is that we have been deprived of? And what is that we are trying to project onto the child? And then, this is a very important question. Once I know from where this is coming and all this drama that I have created, and I keep replaying it again and again, the next question will be, what do I really want for my child? What do we want? Oh, I want him to be successful. What does that mean? What does success mean? If he gets good marks, he will be successful. Oh, really? Do we have that kind of real examples in the world? Maybe not. So if we really ask and ask and ask, then we'll say, okay, I want my child to be happy, healthy, peaceful. That's what all parents want. Yeah. Now, if we want the child to be happy, then why should I be attached to this? I have to really ask that my attachment to how they have to be or should not be actually is quite antithetical to what I want them to be, really. Now, one more question to ask is, who would I be without this attachment? And who can my child potentially be without me, imposing this attachment onto my child? And if these questions can be asked, which means we need time, we need our practice that will deepen the quietness in our mind so that we can listen, we can observe, we can ask these questions, we can step back, we can take a pause, not simply act compulsively. Our patterns that we have carried through generations, we don't have to do that. And so attachment, and the other side of attachment is aversion. Now we think, oh, I can never be averse to my child. Dukkha anushayi dveshaha. Sometimes we could actually impose a certain dvesha or a certain aversion onto the child that we actually have towards somebody else. I had a child who was 5 years old who came with depression, and she was taking medication for depression. And then we really looked at one of the causes. What the child shared and the child's grandmother shared, that the mother always saw her spouse, whom she was separated from, in the child. And she said, she's just like her father. She's just like her father. So she hated the child. And the child was in depression for many years. So that is also something for us to look at. What is that aversion? What is that negative attachment, we can say? And then fear. Oh my God. We fear for this, we fear for that, we act out of fear, we keep acting out of fear, and we think we want to protect the child, we tend to overprotect the child, and simply acting out of fear. Of course, asmita, me as a parent is one of my biggest asmita, and that sits on the child, that you have to be the way I want you to be because you're my child. So to see all these as patterns, as conditioning, because they're habits. So when I see them as habits, I can see them as separate from me. They are not me. So I can change it. So there is hope for me and my child. Yeah, there is hope. Then the next thing is, how do I change these habits? I want to just take one sutra from the first chapter of Yoga Sutra. Maitri Karuna Muditopekshanam Sukha Dukha Punya Punya Vishayanam Havanatah Chitta Prasadanam. One sutra. Okay. This sutra gives you 4 attitudes, because parenting is an attitude essentially. So it talks about 4 attitudes that one can cultivate in our relationship with other people, and it stands good for parenting as much as it stands good for any other relationship in our life. In fact, we can start with this. We can start with our closest relationship. And it is not Maitri towards somebody, Mudita towards somebody, Karuna towards somebody else on the street. Can we actually practice it with our own people? So Maitri, I mean, it was so beautiful watching Dr. Ananda and Divya Priya having this conversation, that the mitratvam, the quality of that friendship, how can we actually create that quality of friendship that the child can actually come and tell us anything that he or she is struggling with. They don't have to hide, they don't have to fear judgment or punishment. Yeah, Maitri. And really enjoy and really rejoice in the joy of the child. Karuna, when the child is suffering, sometimes, I told you, you should have studied well. Now, what's the point in crying? Not when the child is crying, not when the child is feeling so miserable that she has not scored good marks in the exam. When do we practice Karuna? Do we actually practice Karuna with our near and dear ones? If I ask myself, it is very difficult sometimes. It's very difficult. I tell you, when my husband says I have a headache, I tell him, you should have practiced yoga. Why didn't you practice? I become a yoga teacher there. No, that's not the time for me to give that jnana to him. It is a time for me to actually be compassionate. Now, there is the other side of it that Bhagavad Gita talks about. Ramanuja's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, Asthana Sneha Karunya. Misplaced compassion. And sometimes compassion can be misplaced even with our children. That we don't realize sometimes they're doing something wrong, and we keep condoning or we keep ignoring their wrong action, thinking we need to be compassionate with them, whereas that is not the attitude to practice at that point of time. And mudita is appreciative joy, that when the child is doing something beautiful, to be able to appreciate. And again, not atti yoga or hina yoga. Either parents are overly applauding the child to the extent of spoiling the child. The child does not know even what their strengths and weaknesses are. And hina yoga is they never acknowledge, they never appreciate. The child grows up very needy, with a very low self-esteem, because the child does not know what I'm good at, because I have not been told. Yeah. So mudita, just the right measure of mudita that will actually help the child to grow up with a very strong and healthy self-esteem. Grow as confident human beings. Upeksha, the last one. Upeksha, Patanjali says, in the context of apunya karya, when somebody is doing something that is not appropriate. Okay, how do we react as parents? If we are overly punishing and we keep on, with a magnifying lens, only look at what is wrong with the child, only keep focusing on that, that is going to grow. So how do I help the child to find the right path, to correct themselves, and to give them opportunities to correct themselves, and not overly focus on harp on some of the problems that they may have? And mudita. So mudita has to balance upeksha. Without that, so they say, okay, you reprimand the child. It is important for the child to know what is right and wrong. But you also appreciate, you also give a lot of love, also be friendly, also be compassionate when the child is suffering. So the child knows, like Divya was saying, even if the parents are harsh sometimes, you know that they are telling for your good. And the child has to get that confidence with the parent. And I think that's very important. Now again, these 4 can be cultivated. They are habits that we all can cultivate, and we can make mistakes, we can fall down, we can pick ourselves up, and we can practice. And let us forget about what's happened in the past. There's no point in going into the guilt trip. What is today is the result of the past, so I have to face the consequences of it. But heyam dukkham anagatam. At least for the future, I can see how can I minimize the conflict, minimize the pain, minimize any kind of uh, walls that I could possibly build between me and my child. Let the prana flow freely. Let the child really receive the love from the parents, from the grandparents. Let that flow happen continuously so that child can learn to be a beautiful parent and grandparent for the future. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saraswati ji, highlighting on the importance of self-introspection that parents need to take. What do I want from my child? Such a big question. We can have so many different answers to who would I be if I didn't have this attachment? Who would they be? Recognizing the habits and patterns and taking the necessary steps to change them. So that was lovely as well. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers. I think we can take a few questions now. So I'm just going to open the tab. Okay. So we have a question here for Dr. Jivasu. As you mentioned, it's important to recognize constitution of the child in Ayurvedic perspective. It would be difficult for layman of yoga and Ayurveda to really understand or recognize that in terms of doshas. How would one achieve that? Also, are there any recommended things that books or references on yogic parenting?
Yeah, so the first part is actually the recognizing the natural personality, which is dosha, used to be very common. And actually, in all healing systems of the world, this was an important part of health system. But in modern times, we lost it. So in all our teachings, whenever we meet anyone, including children, our first thing is to know what kind of natural personality they have. It is very easy to discover, at least in the beginning, because there is a set of questionnaire, which I did on my own children. Of course, now they are 33 and 31. So it is not a very complex thing, set of say 10 to 12 questions, which can roughly determine what kind of child you have, and you adjust the lifestyle according to that child. So that comes from Ayurveda. So that is number one. And I forgot number two, what was the second part? The books. Yeah, there are not many books, but one of the book which I recommend is from an American, fortunately or unfortunately, he was the first Vaidya from United States, Robert Suboda. Robert Suboda's quality is that he put everything into a very transparent, lucid framework. And his book is Your Constitution, Your Prakriti. But I'm pretty sure there are many other books which are available, because thing is, it should be not complex. It should be very simple. So I found that book quite useful. And it should not be from internet, because that is very, very confusing. So again, I will summarize. Number one, it is easy to do. It is not difficult. But even if you don't have questionnaire, if you observe your child, you will discover their personality, because a lot of people didn't know about that, but still they know child by their heart. And second, there is a very clear book, Robert Suboda, Your Constitution.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. We have the next question to Dr. Anand. So, freedom to the child can sometimes ruin the life to a great extent. Choosing drugs and having a psychological breakdown. How do we approach this?
I think as a parent, it is our responsibility that we give freedom to the child, but we are there with a safety net when they need our help. It's not, freedom doesn't mean just let them loose. Freedom means that you create a safe structure in which they can grow. It is like what the gardener does. Patanjali talks about it as the impediments that prevent the growth of the crop. That is what you need to do. Again and again, I think Divya and Anand Raj, one thing they would have heard from me is freedom implies responsibility. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but with freedom comes responsibility. I will give you the freedom, but you have to take responsibility for your thoughts, words, and actions done in that freedom. If that is communicated effectively, the child will grow up knowing they are free, but at the same time, they are responsible. And what we think is, just let them free. That means you come back at any time you want, do whatever you want, you go out with anybody you want. That is not freedom. That is total abandonment of parenting. You have actually disowned the kid when you do that. Yeah. So your responsibility is to give freedom. Let them know that you trust them enough to give them that freedom. Saraswati ji said, when they fall down, be there to help them, not see, I told you. I think this is the biggest issue we parents do. Always in relationships, I tell people in relationships, when you are wrong, say sorry. And when you are right, keep quiet. But what we do the opposite. When we are wrong, we keep quiet. And when we are right, see, I told you, see, I told you, see, I told you, I knew this would happen, I knew that would happen. And then that kid is like, next time I'm not going to tell my parent about it. Because there's no sense of karuna there. The karuna has to be there. Compassion has to be there. Fine, you have fallen down. Nothing wrong in falling down. The biggest issue is if you don't get up. Learn to get up. Learn to get up on your own. Learn the lesson falling down. So this type of addictive behavior and other things that kids are getting into, to help them be responsible. And then our culture teaches us samadana veda danda. So sometimes danda may come in some way also, but sama should be there, dana should be there, veda should be there, finally danda. We go straight to danda. If you go straight to danda, after that the kid is going to say, what will you do? Danda. Okay, fine, let us see. And you have just broken the whole relationship. So I think the key word here is trust, freedom, and to know that with freedom comes responsibility.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. We'll take one more question now from Michelle. Many a times we as parents have missed out on realizing our purpose in order to fulfill the wishes of our parents or society. And this void or quest of still finding our purpose haunts us. So could you please give us an advice to such parents as me? What is true purpose, or what is our dharma? Saraswati ji? You'll have to unmute yourself.
I've actually stopped asking this question, what's the true purpose of my life? I want to see if I can lead a meaningful life. And if I am practicing yoga, if it is going to take me to greater levels of clarity and understanding of myself, my reality, and my relationship with the world, then the purpose will emerge. I think that will find me rather than me trying to think about something and create something in my mind. I think living a meaningful life is what matters.
Okay. Thank you. We can answer one more question.
I just wanted to add to that, because that is so beautiful. What Saraswati ji said is so beautiful, because it is like a mirage. You run after it, it disappears. But if you stay where you are, it will appear. So I think sometimes people are always running after this idea that, oh, I'm going to meet someone who will give me the purpose. It is within you. And I think it's such a beautiful answer. I just felt I had to say it because it was a beautiful answer. Beautiful answer.
Okay. Another question. My son always feels he must win and he is not able to take when he loses. What is the yogic approach to this? Anandji?
Is it the son who's feeling that or the mother who's feeling that? Because in our institution, thousands of kids, I have dealt with thousands of parents, and the kids most of the time don't mind losing. But it is the parents whose egos get bruised. And dealing with the parents is more difficult for me than the kids, because the kids are fine. The kids cheer on each other. One kid falls down, the other lifts them up. In our events, one kid is doing, the others are like, you can see them like they're praying to God that kid should do well. The kids don't have it. But the parents, the kid is now reflecting the parental desire, which has pushed that kid saying, you always have to be one. If you are not the first, you are no good. And this is actually being reflected. It's not the kid. No kid, I'll tell you, kids are divine. I have dealt with kids. When they come into teens, they become devilish, I think. But young kids, I tell you, till about 8 or 9, they are divine. They don't have really any jealousy. They don't have this competitive, this mother matsarya and all doesn't really exist in them. But what we adults do is the kid comes home and we are like, you didn't do well. You didn't do that. You should have done that. If that. And then on top of that, not just the kid, they'll go and criticize the teacher. You didn't train my kid well enough. They'll then go and the judge, you were biased. How much I've experienced with parents. So I will say no kid actually is pushed. No kid really wants to do that. It is only when we come through teens that all this sort of comes in. And that is also because of society. Because society says if you are not the best, nobody will know you. If you are not the top, nobody will remember you. And what we forget is, was Kabir Das the best? No, we remember him. Was Valmiki the best? No, we remember him. Remember, the great people were never the best. They were noble human beings. And what we need to work towards is helping our children know what is more important is how humane you are. Because if you enable that humanity to come alive, you have created a generation who has moved from Homo sapien to Homo nobilis, the noble human being. And that is what a yogi is to me, a noble human being. So blame on the parent. Parent needs yoga. Parent needs yogic attitudes, maitri, karuna, mudita, upekshanam. The parent has to learn and adopt it. Automatically, the kid will be perfectly fine.
Thank you, Doctor. One last question we take as we have to wind up as well. Question to Saraswati ma'am. Parents often talk about tantrums and mood swings due to hormonal changes during the teens. How can they handle this?
Okay, I think we have to ask if the parent is going through menopause when the child is going through the teen. If that is happening, then it could be hell. Really, we also have to look at that. That's why I think in olden days, they said you have to have the child early enough. So when the child gets to teenage, you haven't yet reached your menopausal age. It can be a very lethal combination. So again, yoga only helps us to look at ourselves and see how am I responding to this, how am I perceiving this, and what can I do about it. So we have to still look at ourselves. And the child is like the mirror neurons. Child is simply a mirror for us.
Thank you. Dr. Jivasu, we have many people actually asking about this questionnaire and where can they access this and when should they use it?
Pardon, your question was that many people are asking questions?
Many people are, they're asking about the questionnaire that you mentioned about.
Right. Well, if you have their email, I can send it to you. Or I'm pretty sure Dr. Saraswati, Dr. Anand, they have it also. But I can send it to you because we changed, we took a different approach, quite contemporary approach, scientific approach. So I can email to Shivani, and from there you can you can send them to all.
We can take it up. So if anyone, whoever's online and watching and wants this, they can send an email to us and we will provide the necessary.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to the conclusion of this webinar. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all the speakers. Thank you to the team. Thank you, Shivani, Aloma Yoga, all of y'all. And we will conclude with the Purna Mantra, Purnamada. So once again, just become aware of your posture. See that your spine, neck, head in a straight line. Chin tucked in. Eyes closed. And your awareness on your natural breath. We will chant Om once, followed by Shanti Mantra. Together, breathe in. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you all once again and have a lovely evening. Shubh Ratri.